Let me introduce Mr. Talal Rafi. Talal is an economist and an expert member of the World Economic Forum. He's a senior global management consultant at Deloitte, which is an international professional services network headquartered in London. He's a Deloitte global economist and a member of the Deloitte Global Economist Network. He's a regular columnist for the International Monetary Fund. He has given talks globally, including at the NASDAQ, S&P Global, and the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, and contributes regularly with thought leadership for the Davos agenda. His work has been published by the World Bank, International Monetary Fund, Asian Development Bank, World Economic Forum, UNFCCC, United Nations, London School of Economics, and Forbes. So happy and proud of you, Talal. This is something that somebody can achieve in a lifetime. She achieved at a very young age. Over to you, Talal.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you to Edith Cowan and especially for Dr. Nuwan for inviting me here. And when I see a lot of young people here, it reminds me of my school days. So I'm still like in my mid-30s, so I'm not that far away from you all. And I feel that the advice I give could be very much relatable and useful. So the topic is challenges and how we can overcome them. So I'll touch very briefly on challenges, and because most of you all will be going into diverse careers, so I'll try to speak on 5 points that are very broad and that can be of use to everyone here. So the challenges, as we all know, we are in a very bad economic crisis, and I have spoken about this a lecture sometimes over an hour, so I don't want to get you all into that. So high interest rates, so the job market is a bit tough. And as you all know, the previous speaker, Nalin, was speaking about ChatGPT. So there is also the danger. You're not just competing in a tight market, but you're also going to be competing with automation, AI, as it keeps on taking more and more human tasks. So it's going to be a much tougher market. And the third challenge would be, upskilling. So we have to find out which skills we need for the future. I mean, I'm talking about technical skills. And this is tough because we quite frankly don't know what the future would be in the next 10 years. I remember about 15 years ago, Microsoft was putting out like 2019, and most of what they said did not happen. But in certain areas, it's been more advanced, and in certain areas, not so much. So it's a bit difficult to tread in this path. I'll just take time. Yeah. So then I want to speak about 5 points, five things which I felt that if somebody had told me when I was a student would have helped me much. So the first thing would be, I would advise everybody here to work on your ambition. What do you want to be? So that's very important. Because right now what you have is, even compared to me or anyone else in the panel, you're about 20 years ahead. So you get to know from the experience of people here on how you can make the correct choices. So ambition is very important because if you want to aim for the top, like for example, you want to reach 80, you have to aim for 100. So having high expectations of yourself is very important. And also knowing your goals. What do you want to become? Because if you not sure where your end goal is, whether it's to your right, to your left, or even behind, you may be walking forward, but you're walking in the wrong direction. So that's my first thing, be very ambitious. And as a consultant, with Deloitte and previously with work, sometimes writing for the IMF and the World Bank, I interact with a number of leaders, like even CEOs of large global companies, politicians in Sri Lanka, elsewhere, economists. So one thing I always ask them is, tell me what are 3 or 4 things that you wish you had when you were young? And they always said ambition. Because most of them admit that it was by the time they were in their early 30s that they had an idea of where they wanted to be, and they started reshaping their careers. So which cost them like almost a decade. So this would be something that you'll have the time, you'll have the resources, make the choice very clearly, and focus on something that you are very passionate about. The second thing I want to talk about is risk-taking. Because when you look at life, there is always one thing, being in your comfort zone. So there's no risk. You can live an average life, average grades, get an average job, put your kids to a normal school, retire. Or, like the topic goes, be a proper leader. So for a leader, you need to take risks. So there is one thing where if you are going to take risk or aim for the best, you also have to admit that you can lose. So it's sort of like a calculated risk-taking. I wouldn't call it a gamble because you know what's surrounding you and it's not based on luck. I mean, with hard work, you can pull it off. So risk-taking is one thing, and they always say, fortune favors the brave. So people who do take the risks usually come out on top. And this also goes to the next fact about experimenting. People who are risk-takers are constantly experimenting. Like an example would be Amazon CEO, Jeff Bezos. So he talks about attributes most of his success to being innovative, because one example he gives is when he was a young boy, he used to go and be with his grandparents in the farm. So when a tractor or any farm equipment broke down, they never called a mechanic. They would sit down, try out 100 different ways until they fixed it. So this means that, the thing about experimenting, which comes to the next point, accepting failure. So you cannot be a leader and expect that you're going to win all the time. Failure is something that's going to come in. And it's not about winning all the time. It's about the most successful people are who fail but can get up on time with the confidence and try out again. Because if it's an entrepreneur or a leader, you're always given the opportunity to try out again. And also, still going on the risk-taking part, I want to talk about regret. Because most people don't take a risk. I mean, they're very comfortable with life. And by the time you're 80, there's a lot of regrets. I should have been this, I should have been that. So I always tell myself, it's better to try out 100 times and be a loser who tried 100 times than to be, sorry to use the word, a coward who never tried. So I would advise people, think very carefully. But if you're not willing to, not ambitious to go to the top, I mean, it's totally fine, nothing wrong with that. But if you want to be a great leader to aspire, you have to take calculated risks in life. The third point is humility. As the other speakers were saying, you need to be able to admit that you don't know much. So that always allows you to learn a lot. Like, for example, one of the most innovative companies in the world is Google. Google, when they hire, they look at intellectual humility. So that means they look at hiring the smartest people in the world probably, and also people who are humble. Because, even if you're the smartest person and you have a lot of knowledge, there's still so much that the world is changing so much and things that you need to be updated with. So for a leader, you need to have intellectual humility to admit that sometimes you don't know and you're willing to talk to people and learn. Examples of these are people like Steve Jobs, other leaders, Elon Musk. They're known for networking to acquire knowledge. And the other thing, most important thing about humility is find a mentor. So this is something that I advise everybody here. Find somebody who is a mentor. This helps a lot. As you can learn a lot when you speak or have a mentor who is much older than you. Like, for example, somebody who is over 50 years old, having them as your mentor, you see, their career experience, the years they have worked, is more than the years you've lived on this world. So there's so much of failures, of success, what they have done in certain situations, how they failed, how they succeeded. These can all help you better. And also, sometimes, usually if you're an entrepreneur or going through trouble, they can, be a strength, especially emotional intelligence-wise. And the fourth thing would be, try to look at yourself like a company. You need to have a competitive advantage. The days, like when our parents or grandparents lived, the days are over when you graduate and, even if you get a first class, you come out and you're guaranteed a job like that. You have to sort of like stand out, be a bit different to others, because there's so many, like Nalin was saying, 5,000 applications and only 10 are selected. So you have to stand out, be a bit different. So here I can share my experience, because one way I thought I would do it, or when I was strategizing a decade ago, was to sort of diversify your profile. So I worked in a number of different fields, started off as an entrepreneur, and then went into the development sector, worked on entrepreneurship, and then for a World Bank project on developing entrepreneurship there. I've been advising certain multilaterals on gender equality, diversity and inclusion. Then at Deloitte, I was on the global ESG operations team, so sustainability again. And now I'm with Deloitte's Global Economist Institute. So here again, the diversification also helps a lot, which will help in the next point I'll come to. And the other point I would talk about competitive advantage is when you're picking a job or when you get an opportunity, even a voluntary opportunity, I would advise everybody to take it. Because when I talk to a number of young people, everyone, you see one of the key things they look at is how much am I going to get paid? So it's always about financial returns. So I always tell them that, when an opportunity comes, it's not about only that. Why don't you look at what are the skills you're going to learn from that? I mean, maybe you're getting an opportunity not paid at all, but you can develop your skills. And when you're going into that project, you meet a lot of people, networking. So that's very important, which I'll touch on next. And also, it adds to your CV or bio. So here again, my advice is have a competitive advantage over others. To do that, try to take on as much opportunities as possible, even if it's voluntary, even if you have to do it out of your normal working hours. And lastly, the importance of networking. So networking is very important, as you all know. That's something that can take you out, make you be the best, and give you opportunities that wouldn't have come otherwise. So one thing is, advice is, when you're networking, try to meet people and try to help them out. It's most of the time I find people like, when they think of networking, it's like going around and trying to extract something out of other people. So you naturally try to help people out. That's the way it is. And somehow things will return back to you. And and also when you network, it's not just about connections. Network for knowledge. Meet people. I'm pretty sure that when I meet everybody here, each of you all will give me something unique that I don't have, and the other person would not be giving. So everybody is unique. Everybody has something to contribute. And lastly, one reason I talk more about networking is because from the time I started my career, I've been somebody who networks a lot. So usually I meet like at least 2 people a week. So that was how it got me into opportunities. Like, for example, I met somebody on a visit. So that person introduced me to somebody at the World Bank, which allowed me to write. Similarly, got into the Asian Development Bank. And then I was invited into the World Economic Forum's expert network. So it just, it has an added-on effect. Maybe the first person or the first opportunity you get through networking may not be good, but that can lead you on to better opportunities. And lastly, with regards to networking, I say that people usually look at successful people and say that they are lucky. They always say that, this person, he became successful because he met this person at this time. So I always say that, the harder you network, the luckier you get. So it's more about that person got the opportunity to meet this person through which he got an opportunity to become big. That's because he's the number of people he met per week were much larger. So the percentage of him meeting that person and getting that opportunity is much higher than somebody who does not make that much of an effort. So lastly, I was saying that this was like years ago, before I was part of any global organizations. There was a visit by the World Bank Vice President, Hartwig Schäfer. So now I'm quite good with him. But back then, I got an opportunity to meet him. That's because I sort of made an effort. And he gave me an hour one-on-one conversation. So that was because, and then there itself he was telling me that, there were only 3 people he met. He gave an opportunity to meet. One was President Maithripala Sirisena, Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, and myself. So I'm just saying, be confident. Some of the people, you can always, if you have an agenda to meet somebody, put it out. The worst thing that could happen is they'll probably ignore you. But that's nothing, But if an opportunity comes in, that's great. That can advance your career greatly. I hope this was very useful. Thank you.
Thank you, Talal. Thank you very much. We'll again come to you with questions later on.